like, and I'm being yelled at for not asking it, is a very difficult question to ask. They're like, ask him about the graphics. I'm like, what do you mean? So I guess there's been some criticism today that people don't feel like Halo Infinite looks next gen. I feel like was very happy with the way that Halo looked. But I guess, do you have any feedback for the people who have had criticisms of how Halo Infinite specifically looked today?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. It's July. We're far from holiday. You're seeing a work in progress game. With that said, you probably watched the stream in 1080p, maybe. So we have put up a 4K 60 on demand stream. So people, I'd say, one, go back and look at the game in 4K 60. We did that deliberately. It's very hard to show the full power and graphic fidelity of what Xbox Series X will be able to deliver for you over a stream. So
Yeah.
go back and look at it in 4K 60. The other thing I'll just say is, like, it is a work in progress. So what you're seeing today, and I can tell you because we see build check-ins every week and they make progress week after week. So between now and holiday, it's just going to get better and better. With that said, I thought it looked great. I thought it sounded great. I thought it just, for me, it gave me all the OG Halo vibes and stuff I love
Same.
about the game.
Yeah.
So
I was happy
when
with it
went
because
up
I
in
was
that
like, this is what I
elevator,
wanted from Halo.
totally, and I saw the ring, and I'm like, holy shit, this is all explorable. Like, I
Yeah.
just went kind of nuts, and just loved kind of just everything about it. I thought the lighting looked great. I thought the sound sounded great. So
So, as you can see from this title of this YouTube video, I feel like Xbox, Microsoft are doing their fans disservice with what they've shown so far. Before this video started to play, you heard a clip with Alana Pierce and one of the top dogs at Microsoft himself, basically defending what was wrong with Halo Infinite. Aaron Greenberg. And to be fair, to me, it sounds like it's backtracking. You've got to remember, the Xbox Series X has been stating and clouting how powerful it is. Or is it? I'm starting to question if it actually does have 12 T-flops, 52 CUs, if it's running a custom RDNA 2 GPU, if it's got 16 gigabyte DDR, if it's got SSD, if it's got a internal storage of 1 terabyte. Because you got to understand, guys, this gameplay demo, yes, it's more gameplay footage than we have seen for PlayStation. The PlayStation event was very good, but it did lack gameplay. And if you were to add up the actual gameplay from both conferences, Xbox clocks in just under 10 minutes, PlayStation clocks in just over 6 minutes. So there's a variance of 3 to 4 minutes more gameplay. But what the PlayStation did show is a highlight reel of render gameplay footage. You just have to see what happened with Ratchet & Clank Adrift in Time, the SSD going from one world to next, and then Horizon Zero Dawn 2 Forbidden West. Although it was hard to tell what was actual gameplay unless you played the previous game, you would see what was pre-rendered graphics and what was actual real. So the biggest issue why the fans are unhappy is Xbox has been pushing this agenda. Their console is the only console in the world that can push 4K at 60 FPS, even boasting that it could do 120 FPS at 4K, which it's not going to do. I feel like Aaron Greenberg's comments was him essentially backtracking, because you got to remember, this console is supposed to be next gen, 12 T-flops, RDNA 2, and it won't have ray tracing until after launch. Ray tracing is an aspect that Xbox has been using for their marketing campaign massively, and then it turns out that they're not even going to have it. And then there's this agenda that this game isn't actually made for next gen, although Xbox decided to use this game to platform people's expectations for next gen. And then you have The Last of Us 2, so to speak, that is running on 1.84 T-flop, you know, Joel, and you compare it to what I presume is one of the main characters of Halo Infinite at 12 T-flops, and it just looks a big mess. It really does. And then you compare a game that got a lot of flack for PlayStation, Killzone, Shadowfall 2013. You compare it to Halo Infinite. They literally, actually, no, to be fair, Killzone looks a little bit better, but there's a 7-year time jump. Now, I know what people are going to say. They're at home. They're not in their studios. We're 4 months away from launch. And I'm thinking to myself, Final Fantasy VII Remake launched during this. You know, Last of Us 2 launched during this. Ghost of Tsushima launched during this. We're just about to get Marvel Avengers in September during this. So saying that we're in this pandemic is just an excuse. PlayStation did not have an excuse. If the game was not ready to show, don't show off a game that is rumoredly costing up to $500 million. And it just looked like a subpar PS4 game. You gotta understand, guys, going from last generation, the current generation, to the next generation is insane. Both consoles are very powerful, and I'm looking forward to playing both consoles. Just at the moment, Xbox are just not shining a great light. If they're not ready to launch holiday 2020, don't launch it. We do know they're both going to be very powerful, and if you're going to keep boasting 12 teraflops, that's all we seem to hear, ray tracing, yet Halo Infinite isn't going to have ray tracing. But then again, if you look at Forza Motorsport, allegedly it's going to have 4K 60 FPS with ray tracing, but their flagship game Halo Infinite, no ray tracing, but Forza Motorsports is. Now, we did get to see a bit of Forza Motorsports, but it was pre-rendered CGI gameplay. A lot of people keep saying that someone was playing it, but it wasn't clear what was going on. We don't have really release dates for many video games at all, but that's the main reasons why people are going at Halo. Fans are disappointed. We got to see a little bit of Spider-Man Miles Morales, which a lot of Xbox fans do want. There's even a fake box going around. But you look at the main villain for this game. Now, I'm not going to blame 343 Studios, because I presume Xbox should have spoken to them, should have said if they weren't happy with the game, you just look, there's a lot of visual popping. And yes, I mean, you could play around with the lighting. I mean, the big problem here is the lighting. It's very different to, say, a game like Last of Us 2 or Ghost of Tsushima or anything like that. Although Halo Infinite is supposed to be somewhat open world, but you're not going to be able to go everywhere. I mean, I've seen a lot of posts of people talking about the lighting. I've even seen some YouTubers changing the lighting, and yes, it does make the video game graphics appear better. YouTubers should not be having to color correct, change lighting for a billion-dollar company. Now, I know Microsoft is technically a billion-dollar company, but Xbox is not really, because they're different companies. They might be owned by the same company. So what is also interesting is the fact that I feel like Xbox are using excuses. Xbox has excuses, and in my opinion, if the flagship game is not ready, they should just delay it. I'd like to play the best version. I mean, Halo Reach 2010 almost looks as good as Halo Infinite 2020. And then their response is, the game isn't ready. We have meetings each week. It's changing each week. But come on, we are 4 months out. Most developers will have very good PCs at home. They can work on this. Yes, it's not the same thing as technically being in the studio with the development team, having a rapport, being able to do stuff in real time. But there are many studios that have come across this problem. Cyberpunk, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Many studios are. As far as we are concerned as the consumer, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X console is ready. They're both in massive production at the moment, rumoredly both trying to get up to 10 million units before this coming November. But then they're saying they're not ready. So if Xbox, Aaron Greenberg, is saying the game's not ready, I'm starting to get very skeptical about the Xbox, and I do like the Xbox games. Forza Motorsports looks very good. Stalker 2 looks very good. There's so many games that they displayed that look good. But here is the problem. Xbox did announce a lot of games, but they are timed exclusives under the bracket of console launch exclusives, which essentially means, and it was a big portion of the overall story. And then people are like, but PS5 had a lot of time exclusives. They did. So realistically, neither company showed off many games that are exclusively only on their one console. So what does exclusive console launch means? It essentially means day to day will be on Xbox and PC, contractually obligations, and will go to PlayStation 5 at a designated time. It's kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake was exclusive first on the PS4, and then it will be going to Xbox 1 year later. I just find it very interesting how they both try to make out that they're better than the other company when realistically they're doing the same thing. Spencer, unfortunately, has been speaking about DLC marketing deals a couple of years back, paying marketing funds so another console base can't play a piece of content doesn't feel like growth. When called out for the comments, he said, "I never said Xbox has never done this. I'm not calling out others. It's just not a practice I like. That's it." More recently, Executor appeared to imply that Sony's approach to PS5 exclusives is anti-consumer. I find it completely counter to what gaming is about, to lock people away from being able to play game experiences. He said, or to force someone to buy my specific device on that day. I want them to go out and play it in any kind of game they want. While this suit has perhaps purposely never been called out, console launch exclusives is the same thing as having an exclusive title for the same amount of time. So Xbox might not be making their games exclusive like PlayStation do, but timed exclusives, they're literally doing the same thing. It's never been called out. Console launch exclusive explicit comments do appear contradictory to the company's actions. Stalker 2 is not talking about PlayStation 5 right now, but later the release hasn't been ruled out. The same is true about The Medium, which hasn't actually officially been confirmed to just be on Xbox and PC, which it's not actually exclusive. The same can be said about Warhammer 40k, but we don't know much about that. Tetris Effect Connected is an interesting case, as the core title is already available on PS4, but fans have to wait until next year for the multiple player update. And of course, it wasn't part of the recent Xbox game show. It doesn't seem like the PS5 version either. So what is interesting is Xbox are doing exactly what PlayStation are doing with this console launch exclusivity. Then you got someone like Phil Spencer coming out and saying that he doesn't want you to lock you in. But what happens if you don't have an Xbox or a PC and you want to play Halo, or you want to play Stalker 2, or you want to play these other games? Then you are locking them in. Then it's like if your only console is PlayStation, then you are literally doing what you said you don't want PlayStation to do. You just want people to be locked into Xbox or PC, realistically. So they are condescending and contradicting themselves all the time. Like Fable, we don't know anything about it, but you're not going to be able to play it on the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 or the Switch. So you are realistically locking them into a device. So what I'm getting at here, guys, is realistically Xbox showed a lot of games off, but they're console launch exclusives. And if you look at the facial graphics on the characters, you look at Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, you look at Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, then you compare them to Halo Infinite, and it looks like we're going back to, you know, PS3, maybe Xbox 360 days. Now, this is not which console is better. Both have massive positives and both have massive flaws. But one thing for sure is next generation, you're not going to get every single game in 4K 60 FPS, 4K 100 FPS like some companies are implying. The best case scenario would be 4K 30 FPS. Realistically, if you want the games to look and run super smooth, like I said, both consoles have very good exclusives, but some of them are very misleading. You know, like Spider-Man Miles Morales, not misleading. Horizon Zero Dawn 2, not misleading. Ratchet and Clank, exclusive to PlayStation. Exclusive to PlayStation 5. You're not getting this console time launch exclusive when realistically you could just go on your PC and play any games. So like always, guys, let me know what you think. Does Halo Infinite make the Xbox Series X look like the games aren't ready to launch? Because it's a bit strange to me how they're going, oh, we can ray trace properly, but then Halo is not going to have ray tracing on day of launch. Cool, Forza gonna have ray tracing, but when is it coming out? It's a racing game. Realistically, you're not gonna play it that long. You need your flagship game to look as beautiful as possible. So like always, let me know, guys, who is doing better so far. Miles Morales, Spider-Man looks incredible. We're seeing the SSD. We're not seeing anything on the Xbox side. Not seeing ray tracing. We're seeing popping in Halo Infinite. We're not seeing SSD loading times. There's a loading screen. We're not really seeing anything next generation about the alleged, and I'm going to call it alleged because we're not seeing anything to back up the fact that it does have 12 teraflops, that it is an RDNA 2 GPU, although they've confirmed it, and then it does have, 8 cores running at 3.8 with a custom Zen 2 CPU. We're not really seeing any of this at the moment, are we? So like always, guys, I know there is at least 4 months till November when these consoles could be releasing, but I still wouldn't be surprised if the Xbox Series X got delayed. So like always, guys, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll get you in another video very soon. Catch ya later.